Hey y'all, it's Teresa over here at Stringfield Ridge Farm. You saw that title right. Things are looking up. Besides my glasses, I broke my glasses this morning, had to get out the spare. I'm not used to the spare, so it's a little odd for me. They're a little bit bigger. They're bigger, so it's just odd. But also, we had a flat tire Sunday morning, couldn't make it to church. Like to never found a tire because it is an odd tire, because it's that little bitty car. It's an odd tire, and we like to never found one. We finally did on Monday and got that taken care of. Then what else? There was 3 things. You know what happens in threes. The other thing was I made my green smoothie that I usually have for breakfast. I made my green smoothie and headed to work. That was on Tuesday morning, and I just made it. I took 2 little sips out of it, got in the car, and spilt the whole thing all over me and the car. So I had to go back in and clean all that up and change clothes. Had a bad start of the week, starting with Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. 3 days of just bad. So, anyway, you've heard me talk about our terrible garden. I even showed a video recently about how bad our garden was doing, actually. And showed a few things. I talked about how bad our garden had done, and we're going to work on a better fall garden. We have replanted some stuff. So today is Wednesday, and I only worked half a day. I come home. I thought, I just need to go home and relax from this stressful 3 days I've had. And I decided to come out and look at the gardens. We've had some rain, plus some sunshine. We've had some nice weather, and not as hot, not as humid as it had been. So we've had some nicer weather, and then we had some rain. So I come out to look at the gardens, and it made my day. Things are looking up at Stringfield Ridge Farm. Y'all watch this. So I had showed you some of my tomato tomatoes and cherry tomatoes. I have lots and lots of those, and those are just going crazy. But I wasn't too sure about any of my big tomatoes, whether they were even going to do anything. They just looked pitiful, and the ones that were coming on a little bit had stink bugs on them. And so we were getting a little worried about having enough tomatoes to can. I had decided that I might have to can tomato tomatoes just to get a canning in, because we do have tons of those, but big tomatoes we hadn't had. And I come out here, and here's one, first one I come to. It's got a big, nice looking tomato on it that so far so good, is looking good, and that plant is even looking a lot better than it did. Then this is where we had replanted. This is one of my herb gardens that's going to be an herb garden in the spring, but we decided to go ahead and use it for some replanting for the rest of this year and fall, and then in the spring I'm going to turn these into herb gardens. I have kind of now decided to do potager gardening, like Jess on Roots and Refuge. She has a beautiful potager garden, and that is just where you plant your vegetables, and you plant herbs and flowers all together, and in one garden, and you make it beautiful, and it's a serene, beautiful place to be. And she explains that in one of her videos, so go check her out if you haven't already. And she talks about using very colorful herbs and vegetables and flowers, and it's just she has a beautiful 10,000 square foot garden. Mine's going to be just a small portion like that, but it's called potager gardening, and so check that out. That's what this is going to be eventually in the spring. But for now, we have replanted some peas and green beans. So those are bush green beans. I showed those in a previous video, but they were just little, just coming up. They're doing good. And the peas are starting to do good. There's not a whole lot. They skipped a little. They missed a few spots in between, but there's a few coming up there even. He kind of come back out and replanted where they didn't come up, so there's some new ones coming up, but he's got that ready, and I believe that will do good. On to the second herb garden. He come back in and replanted some squash plants in there, and they're all coming up. And in that same bed is the pumpkins that I showed before. We only had one of. And look at there. We only had seen one, but now there's a second one coming on there. Those are doing great. Here's those ground cherries. We had left these ground cherries in a few of the beds because I like the ground cherries. Those are doing great. They always do. But we were worried about that pumpkin plant. It only had one pumpkin growing on it, and now there's a second one. So that don't sound like much, but to us right now, that's just glorious. He threw a couple of watermelon plants in here, and we were kind of worried about that. Not sure how that would do, but there actually is a little watermelon coming on. So that's exciting. Not sure how he'll do, but we'll see. At least it looks good. The plant looks good, and there's finally a watermelon coming on. So we'll see how that goes. These cucumbers are not looking great, but they have produced a few cucumbers, so it's not a total loss. There are a few on there. There's one. There's several of those like that. So we'll just keep hoping for the best with those. Then those green beans. I called them peas last time, and I've just about done it again. These green beans, they're coming on great. Now, they have done wonderful. They're all the way down that line on a fence row, all the way down through there. And they are starting to come on good. So I will be able to definitely get a canning of green beans, and I'm excited about that. And they're coming on real good. You can see there's a bunch of those need picking. Don't know how many's on there yet. There's some. They're doing good. And I definitely, oh yeah, there's several. I'm seeing several now. So those will be, I will be able to get a canning out of that this weekend. And then the peas. These are black-eyed peas. There's the peas, black-eyed peas. They're coming on good. There's not a whole ton of those. There's like 3 good plants there of those. And it's pretty weedy. We got to get in here and weed a little bit more. We weeded not long ago, but it just keeps bounding back. But we keep at it when we can. When we get off work, we get out here, and on the Saturday we get out here and just do the best we can do. But things are looking up. I just wanted to show you. Okay, and then the cabbages, I had showed those. Those are coming along good. There's only 6 of them though. Only 6 of them that made it. And they are doing pretty good though. They've all got a head of cabbage in there, so that's fine. His okra, I had showed his okra before. There's not a whole lot of it. Some of it didn't come up at all. I don't touch the okra. So if it starts getting too big, which I see right now that he's got a few on there that are too big already, that's just too bad. I don't touch okra. Okra itches me to death. I can't stand it. It will tear me up. All I have to do is barely rub up against that mess, and it will just tear me up like I'm allergic to it. Now, I can eat it after it's cooked. And I see a few of them that are already too big, but he'll just have to deal with that later. I'm not touching it. Now, here is the best thing we've had. The thing that has done the very best for us, despite all of the circumstances that we have been through, despite the heat and the rain and the cold weather up until May, despite all of that, and the horse trampling through the garden, despite everything, this has done the very best, and we will be planting these again because they are doing great. And that is these purple hull green beans. Purple hull green beans. Now when you cook those, they just turn green. They're pretty right now, And I will be putting those, I will be planting those next year in my potager garden, because they are beautiful plants and they have these beautiful purple green beans. But when you cook them, they're just any other green bean. They turn green and they taste like a green bean. But they have been abundant. We have picked and picked and picked off of that. So that has done really well. And I will be planting that again. We got those seeds at the Deep South Spring Gathering last year. And I can't remember who brought those. I am so glad they did, because that thing has done great despite all the difficulties we've had around here. The only problem is we thought it was a bush bean. I looked it up, and I guess there are two different kinds, because I looked it up and it said it was a bush bean, and this one was not a bush bean. So we had planted it thinking it was a bush type and left it, and then when it started spreading, we had to come back in with some sticks and just prop it up the best we could. But it's doing great, so don't let those old ugly sticks fool you. It's doing fine like that. Just goes to show you don't have to have the very best equipment and the very best fencing or whatever. We ended up sticking those up with sticks, and they are doing better than anything else. And then this tomato plant, this was the pig pen. In the middle of this old pig pen, this beautiful tomato plant come up. And of all things, it's the best tomato plant we've had, and it is going to be, I wasn't sure what kind of tomatoes it was going to be. I was afraid it would be more cherry tomatoes, but it's not. They are big tomatoes, and they are looking good on there. Something went right over here. In this same spot, this pig pen, a butternut squash came up. And our butternut squash that we planted over in the garden died out. And I thought we weren't going to have any butternut squash this year. And when we got over here and found this tomato plant, we found a butternut squash plant, and it's doing good. We've only seen the one so far, but there's two plants. There's one good plant there, and then there's another one a little ways over. All of that's still in the pig pen, the old pig pen. And there he is, and he's doing good. The plant's doing good. I'm not sure how the butternut squash will do, but we've got that one anyway. One more thing, you've heard us talk about having pecans. We've got 7 large pecan trees that have the large paper shell pecans on them, and I found a buyer just today. I called today to a company that it's a little ways from here. We would have to travel about an hour drive, but they said they would buy all the pecans that we brought to them this year. So that was exciting. We're going to be able to get rid of all the pecans we want to get rid of. And we have, I've never showed this, I don't think. We have a walnut tree, a very nice walnut tree here in our, right by our driveway. And it is doing great this year. They are just, it's loaded this year. So we are going to be sure that we get our walnuts this year and get those taken care of. I don't know if I'm showing a lot of them, but it's just loaded with them. They're loaded all over. Not sure, I can't tell what I'm showing, so I'm trying to show how loaded down it is with walnuts this year. And that's good. I make a tincture out of the walnut hulls. You can make a tincture with vodka and the green walnut hulls that makes iodine. So thanks for watching, y'all. I just want to give you a little update because I was excited after the 3 bad days I had. I was excited to come home and look around and saw a lot of good produce going on. I just thank the Lord that our garden's starting to come along and the weather's starting to ease up a little bit to where hopefully we can have a good fall garden. So Thank y'all for watching. Give us a thumbs up and a comment and subscribe.